have people coming from who have been placed in Opera, EXL, Fair and Slumberger. So I'm just going to introduce everyone to you. From there, first Shreyans Kushwaha, he has been placed in ZS Associate. He has been placed in ZS Associate. He's our department is dual degree student. Then Shirish is in placed in EXL. Angam Parashar and Arka Prabha both have been placed in Opera. Abhilash, Lavish, he has been placed in Fair. Then Arpit Rungta, he has got a PPO from Slumberger. Then Karthik Kota, he has been placed in ZS Associate. And Avik Tandon, Opera. So first they will be starting with telling you what is the procedure and what happens in the companies, and then they will be telling you a few questions, and if you have any questions you can just ask them. Okay. So Shreyans.
The procedure that started was first of all there was a test. Before that there was an initial shortlisting according to the CVs, and then there was a test, online test. It constituted of some aptitude questions as well as some vocabulary questions. Then after that there was a GD session. After that there were 3 rounds of interview. First interview was based on case study, second was a guesstimate interview, and third one was an HR interview. So like this was the entire procedure, and for what all you need to do for that is just the basic aptitude questions everybody can tackle around here, and apart from that anything based on vocabulary, it's just you have to read some things, some books, or if you are preparing for CAT or GRE, I think that would be enough, right?
Could you please mention your CG also?
Yeah, my CG was at that time 8.29.
Do you have any questions for him?
How much does CG matter for these kind of companies? Consultancies?
There is a basic limit, like if you are above 8 point, then I think if you have got some good points in your CV, I think you will get shortlisted for that. Then you have to take on the test and everything, so it's not a big deal.
CG about 9 is a problem or just CG about
No,
9
some guys like 1 or 2 guys who got selected finally, like they had very good CGs, I think 9.3 or something. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter much.
Well, having a high CG is definitely a more comfortable fact than not having it.
Because then you have got one good point, like I'm good in academics, I can be sincere. So it's a good point.
A lot of them shortlist kind of primarily based on CG. Right?
CG, yeah.
As in, at least for us, that's how it happened. It's changed over the last few years. You know, some years you will see that they're doing it on the basis of whether you work with a gymkhana, you did XYZ. Sometimes there's a huge focus on extracurriculars. Sometimes you see that their primary focus is acads only. If you look at BCG's list this year, their shortlist, it was, I guess, super biased to acads, right? Everyone was nearly and above, or at least close. So, and then you had to have done some little bit extra. I know that there were certain glaring exceptions to the rule that I'm stating right now. I guess all of you will know about those. But usse chhod ke, it's like it's definitely the higher your CG, the more comfortable you are inside the entire placement process. At least that's the vibe we have right now.
Has it been the trend all the years, or
Sorry?
has it been the trend all the years, or?
No, that's what I'm saying, right? So there have been times when it was a bad thing to be a sudden early because they were like, the only thing you do is keep studying, right? So they didn't care. Right now, it's seeming like a good thing to be a sudden early. So it's like, it's kind of changed batch to batch. It's a little difficult to predict what it's going to be like, but it's always safer to have a higher CG than not. Okay. Maybe I should start about the exam. Okay. So I guess you want to talk about the test. I don't remember that. As in we had a test initially for EXL, which was kind of valid for the first shortlist, which I guess was practically everyone applied, right? So that was essentially an objective test. It happened just like every other test in KGP happens. Okay, I think you're getting what I'm trying to say. The camera is on. So the thing is, that was primarily ठीक है बैठे थे सब लोग. It happened in CIC. It's on the comp, so then you do what you need to do and you pass that test. After that, they released a shortlist of like about 20 people, and that list was kind of very different. I noticed this कि EXL's list was very different from any of the other consulting firms wala list. I think out of the 20 of us, we would have probably had like, let's say 10 to 12 who didn't have a single other consulting company shortlist. The simple reason, I guess, something common in all of our series would have been that we did something where it appeared like we were working with numbers or something to do with Hindu stuff inside of our 4 years prior to that. So I think that was what they were primarily looking at, because EXL is a very numbers focused firm. It's essentially in the banking or financial consulting space. So a lot of what they do is to do with software that crunches numbers essentially. That is what the firm does as a function. So that's what they were kind of looking for us. I mean, looking for in us कि someone who's very willing to be an analyst proper, as opposed to someone who just, to give you a very ballroom example, it's like ballpark example, it's like a BCG would come and say, अच्छा यार market situation is this, ठीक है, we look at that, we look at X amount of other factors, and therefore we predict that maybe this is what's going to happen, so therefore your firm should go ahead and do this. A firm like EXL will say, okay fine, let me see your balance sheet, let me see this sheet, that sheet. They will take all of those numbers, process it through software, and they'll just come up and say, look, this is what the numbers are saying, this is what the market numbers are saying, therefore this is what's going to happen. It's a lot more direct. So talking more about the process, we had कि एक बार test हो गया, 21st was shortlisted. There were 3 guys who were doing the interviews. From what I figured out, I think all 3 of them were consultants only, right? There was no HR guy as such. So it was like we kind of had to circulate. At the first level, you give 2 interviews regardless, since you're shortlisted. So you could land up starting with either of the 3 guys. It was kind of like in sequence. So पहले दूसरे के पास जाते हो. They do your interview, which was kind of primarily either a case or a puzzle. In my case, both of them were cases. In some people's case, one of them was a puzzle, one was a case. Some guys got both puzzles. So that was a little arbit depending on the interviewer's mood. Once that happened, then they released a second shortlist, and then whoever was the third guy that you didn't go to before, you typically land up going to him for the final interview. My final interview was a lot more kind of informal, HR-ish. He also did a puzzle inside of that, but otherwise by and large it was a relatively very peaceful interview. He was just trying to figure out if I will join and what my aspirations are, blah blah. But before that, the cases are stuff that you would like to have prepared for. Even if you haven't, like as in my case, I hadn't done too much of case prep for the simple reason that no other consulting firm had shortlisted me, and EXL ka shortlist came out like pata nahi 3 days before the placement process started. So then it wasn't really like I had any time. So yeah, I guess that's generally about it. Maybe Abhi can go into details on the case later. Any questions or should you want?
Okay, so I have placed in Opera Solutions, business analyst. So there were 2 profiles offered by Opera Solutions. One was consulting, other was which is business analyst, and the other was analytics. So we will talk about analytics later on. So there was no test. There was just first primary screening based on your CV. So initially, nearly all of us applied, and they shortlisted some 30 people, and most of them were like already shortlisted in BCG and other companies. BCG, ITC, all of them were more or less common people. And so after they were shortlisted, what happened was, first round was case interview. So they gave you an industry puzzle. I was lucky enough because the case I got was actually what I did the other night. So that was easy. Then the next interview was again case interview. So after first round, they shortlisted some 20 people out of 30. And after the second round of case interview, which was a case interview as well as a walk through your CV and a puzzle. After that, they shortlisted 6 people. And I guess by then they had already made their mind, okay, we are going to take these 5 people from out of 6. So after that, there was another case interview, which was third case interview, HR, puzzle, and yeah, these 3 things primarily. And yeah, after that they released the list. They shortlisted 5. They selected 5 people in the end. So it was just cases and puzzles. That's it. And of course, you need to prepare everything that that is in your CV. You take care of everything.
How do you prepare for case studies, like case studies and puzzles?
Yeah, for puzzle, what I'd say, like, you start preparing for puzzles right from the next sem. If you're studying for placement in the next semester, because what I did, along with the Wengies, we always used to sit together and solve some puzzles from that. And I was asked 3 puzzles in the opera interview, and I had already done all 3 of them, luckily. So it's always better if you solve as many puzzles as possible. And about cases, I was solving a case study of, if I remember correctly, it was UBC's case study book. There was some case interview of alcohol manufacturer. I was doing it randomly, and the very next day, opera asked me the same same case interview. So do as many cases from different B schools case study books. That will have like Wharton, Kellogg. These case studies are available on DC++. Download it and practice them as much as possible. And of course, don't practice it alone. Practice it in a group of 3 or 4 people. 3 people is the ideal group. Practice in a group of 3 people where one person will be interviewing other person and one will just observe. So that is the best way to prepare for case interviews. So, any other thing on case interview?
Something I want to add to this is like, एक तो puzzles का, does anybody remember that site यार? एक ही site है ना जिससे सब कुछ आता है. कौन सा? हाँ, there is Gurmeet.net. There is another place. I don't remember the site now. We'll probably give it to Sujay later on. Where it's basically like they will ask you questions from there only. Cap1 does a lot of puzzles.
Cap1 was case interview.
कौन सी एक company? There was this one company that kept asking you and they always asked you. हाँ, opera. They always asked you from there only. तो it's essentially like वो एक site का अगर तुम्हें सब कुछ पता है तो you're kind of done. So about having the right resource.
Actually, it happened for me also. In opera analytic position, they asked me about 7 to 8 puzzles and I knew all of them. And they are pretty straightforward and asked me that, do you prefer some case study? I haven't practiced it, so I didn't know I can do in maths and puzzles. So they asked me some 7 to 8 puzzles in 3 rounds of interview. And hardcore mathematics like matrix, algebra, and they asked about what have I done in my projects, and when I told that all are mathematical formulation and analytical methods of doing. So they asked me how have you done that, how have you discretized the PDE equations, do in front of me like this, because I previously said that I am not good at case study, so they don't ask me case study, so they go through in the mathematics only.
So what kind of projects help in these kind of interviews?
For opera analytics, if you show in your CV that you have done some mathematical computational based projects, every project you show highlight your mathematical analysis or computational thing, then they are impressed. And in opera analytics, so before there was a test, and after the test there was a shortlist of 30 students. The test was based on 2 parts, MCQ and subjective questions. And when I was going through the interview, they give my answer sheet in front of them and they told me that you have done good in this MCQ questions, but you haven't attempted more than 2 questions. There were 6 subjective questions, I attempted only 2 and got correct 2 because there was time limit. So if you practice fast, if any one of you practice fast calculation, then it helps because you can save time in the MCQ and then do the subjective one. Because they do check the both of the papers. And the shortlist are based on average marks on the board, not the who have done the MCQ good and subjective no question attempted. So they have been selected. So after that, 30 students are selected for the final interview on 1st December. Then there was around 3 rounds and 1 HR round, final one. And all 3 rounds are based on maths, puzzles, and those who are comfortable with case study, quantitative case study mainly. So they asked them.
When do all these test series start, and
It
when
starts-
do you suggest that we should be prepared? No.
You should
When you should start preparing for this from starting of the next semester.
Yeah, of course.
कैट कौन कौन दे रहा है, मतलब कौन देने का सोच रहा है?
अच्छी तरह से जो सोचेंगे।
हाँ, हाँ, see, as in if you do CAT prep, it's kind of enough normally for all of this objective stuff. For those who are not doing CAT prep, and if you've not given an MCQ exam for some time, then thoda locha ho sakta hai. So just concentrate on speed essentially, and a little bit of practice helps.
In fact, I'll suggest that prepare for CAT.
Yeah, it's
because
better. It's better you should prepare for
verbal
the
as well
CAT.
as quant. It will be there in each and every test.
In every
Somehow.
test there is a
So
quantitative
it's better
test.
if you
And the test would start from first week of October or like that.
Was there any CG cutoff for the test?
Yeah, mine
Was there any CGPA cutoff for the test?
For opera analytics, I think it was above 7 or 7.5. 7.0.
How much do exams like CFA and FRM matter in the selection process of these financial and accountancy companies?
It matters for like pure finance bank company like DB.
Like if you're going for DB or like some other
Deutsche
like
Bank.
ECG or something like that, then it matters. But in consulting, like talking about Opera, EXL or FICO, it doesn't count.
हाँ, even in that case, अगर लिख रहे हो तो you should really be very good at
They
it.
might check you anytime.
Otherwise,
If you're writing the point, you should be really good in. You should have prepared a lot for that. If you're writing CFA exam, then they'll really go into deep in that. So you should be prepared enough for that.
And we are writing, should we prepare at least basics of it?
no,
Basically,
no, no.
like what they are going to ask is what you are good at. If you say like I am good at analytics and my projects are all good, basically they'll try to go into that. It won't be like they'll ask you some very random questions which you aren't aware of. It happens that way.
In my case, in fact, my experience was a little different here, so I'll share it with you. Like, I did a couple of projects, internships. So whenever they went into internship, it was like they were more concerned with cases. I used to say 2 technical lines, and they were like, okay, please, you've done your part. So this might also happen. But even then, I suggest that you prepare fairly for it.
हाँ, as in, since you're asking about whether you should prepare for this or not, my second interview, EXL, he asked me what I knew about the credit cards industry, okay? How it functioned, क्या होता है, blah blah blah. Now, I'll be very frank with you, I had no clue about it when I went in for the entire interview process. But since there were a couple of candidates before me, I came to know कि ठीक है यार ये सवाल पूछ रहे हैं. तो मैंने क्या किया था कि my first interview was with an alum. So we kind of finished and we were waiting because the second guy was already interviewing someone else and वो चल रहा था, so I couldn't really go there. So this chap said, okay, do you have any questions for me? So I said, हाँ sir, credit card industry के बारे में कुछ बताओ. So the first guy, he taught me whatever and I repeated all of that like a parrot for second. And that chap was like, अरे भाई ये कौन है? He knows all this shit.
Actually, in every company there is a KGP guy, alumni company. So you should prepare your CV properly and you should defend in the interview because they know everything that you have written in extracurricular activities, this goal, this goal, this goal. So they know everything that you might not.
Moreover, you should know how to drive your interview. Like you have written every points in all the points in your CV. So you should know that which is the main point and you should focus mainly upon that. That the interview should ask you questions only on that point. It shouldn't ask you like if you have done कोई छोटी सी चीज की है, it shouldn't ask you about that. The main things should be main focused. So it's really like presence of humor or it should be there in the interview. So it doesn't matter whatever you've written or what kind of work you have done in the past. At that time, what matters is how you present that. So, okay, for the fair ISEC, it was almost the same. There was a test initially, and written test on 1st December night at 11. So the shortlist was there at 3 in the morning, and there were 2 profiles. Actually, before this year, there were 3 profiles. I don't know which third profile was. But this year there were 2 profiles. One was consulting, solution integration consulting, and another was for analyst. So I got selected in consulting, and 2 selected in consulting and 1 for analyst. So software. That was really poorly software. So there were 2 interviews. The first was normal technical, not technical interview, only CV based. So they were asking you about puzzles and mainly projects, what you have done in the past. And so what I think is in consulting, what matters is if you have done projects in different fields, like not entirely different fields, but not in the same field. Like if you're from thermal, you haven't done all the projects in the same thermal field. Okay. So if you have done in different, so it gives you an upper edge. Like in consulting, you have to deal with different projects at different time. Like after 2 or 3 months, your projects will change. So that's really upper edge. And if you're able to explain that you have good interest in different fields and you're easily comfortable like dealing with any new field, so it's a really good point. So in first interview, they'll ask you only these things. And mine was like a little bit lucky because the person who was taking the interview, he was from mechanical only. So he told me like you can use as much technical terms you can use, so it doesn't matter. So after that, he asked me puzzles, and puzzles was normally related to probability and all. And there was a case study related to probability. I mean, it's a simple case study. If you're prepared for CAT like for even 1 month, you can easily deal with that. It was so simple. And after that, like I have written in my CV that I cleared NTSE. So they started asking me some puzzles like related to series completion and all, and that was a little bit difficult. So they were not easy. So they were a little bit difficult, but you can easily tackle them. And after that, they'll ask you like which is your best topic or anything else like that if you have time. So my first interview was carried for like 40 minutes, and straight after that I had the HR interview. In HR, they just ask you whether you are really interested in joining the company or not. Like maybe you have prepared for CAT very good, or you have given the GRE exam, so they'll be sure about that. They'll try to be sure, like you're really joining the company after you get selected. So this is a really important point. So even in the interview, in the HR interview, be careful. Don't mention that you have prepared a lot for the CAT. You are really serious towards the GRE. Don't mention these things. I mean, it's better to have a good option. If you are applying for GRE or CAT, and if you get a good job, it's fine. It doesn't matter. So the main thing is that you should focus on you're really interested in joining the company. So in HR, they'll check only these things, because in mine they asked me like why not joining your father's business, why not going for CAT. Like my profile was a little bit towards research. I did 2 internships, so they asked me why not going for GRE. I mean, they were like being such a way like if I am the guy, like the interview told me that I'll go for GRE. So you have to get some new ideas behind that and be as frank as possible. Don't give the diplomatic answers. Because I was initially giving the diplomatic answer, he was a little rude with me. The HR guy told me that drop the diplomatic reason and be as frank as you want. So just be as frank as you want. I mean, be frank. I'll say that. So it's a really good point. And I mean, if you're mentioning some new reasons for not going for GRE or for any topic, then it's really good, because he must have got bored of listening the same reasons, because my interview was like for the 12th position or 13th, I guess. So I told him that I haven't given the CAT exam, but I gave that. So it doesn't matter. You should be able to defend that. And anything else? Any questions? And related about the like your nahi ho ya nahi, so it doesn't matter. If you are a 9 CGPA and you have done something like 1 or 2 good extra points, like you're involved in extra CATs or you've done good internships also, then it's really good. It doesn't matter whether you're 9 point or 8.
Actually, it matters until the shortlist.
Yeah.
When there is 30 students in the interview, all are same. Then nothing, because CG doesn't matter.
Like in FAIR, I think they shortlisted like 23 students for the interview based upon the test and the form. You have to fill up. There's a big form, you have to fill that. So out of 23, like the minimum CG was 7.97. So the highest was 8.7. This is the range mainly for consulting, I guess.
In fact, for the companies which does not take any test, there are mainly 3 consulting here. I said BCG, Opera, and SX. There is no test for that. They shortlist just on the basis of their resume. For those companies, CG does matter, I think, a lot. Because they usually take people with very high CG.
Yeah, in BCG it was like all
So
the 4th years were 9.3, 9.4.
All the 4th years were 9.3, 9.4. In Opera, most of them were BCG shortlisted, and same was in SX. All of them were with high CG.
मतलब exceptions can be made if you're Ranga Barasar, it's okay. उसको छोड़ के yes you need CG definitely.
Okay, hello everyone. I got a PPO from Shlambaja, and after listening to all funda about consulting, mathematical formulations, puzzles, and all this is one company that is very cool about all these things. Like they don't care. I don't think they even have a paper wherein they ask you to solve and all these things. They just come and they want to know more about you in the interview and all these things. The only crucial part probably, which is also true for a lot of other companies as well, is making it to the shortlist. So yeah, and also for the CG, they are, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, they are getting a bit inclined towards a decent CG. By decent CG, I mean in the range of 7.5 and 8.5. So that's a decent range, but there have been people who have made it to the shortlist even with a CG of 6.9. I mean, even Chagis have made it to the shortlist at times. But from the past 2 or 3 years, they are, getting a bit more inclined towards a decent CG player. Apart from that, in your CV, they look for a lot of extra cards. The more you have, the more beneficial it is. A lot of people, like most of them, in their CV, they try and put the academic achievements after the extracurriculars, at least for Shlambaja. Because that's what they are interested in. And the process is very simple. You have a CV shortlist, after that there's a GD, and finally the PI. And a few pointers which I can probably tell you, like which do count a lot for the shortlist apart from your extra academics. Like if you have an internship with any of the oil operators, like Shlambaja is a company which provides service to oil operators. Oil operators are those who explore for oil. So for example, in India, ONGC, Kane and all these companies explore for oil. And Shlambaja provides service to these companies. So if any of you happen to have, if any of you are going for an internship in any of these firms, or if any of you have not got an internship and are looking for one, probably you can go into one of these firms if you are very interested. Because Kane India provides very good internships. The only thing is that I don't think they have a program in place. So probably you have to go through some other channels if you want an internship. But you have an internship in any of these firms, it's almost certain that you'll be shortlisted. Because the main clients of Shlambaja in India are these two companies, and anyone who has an internship with these companies is bound to be shortlisted. There's no good logic behind it, why they do it, but they have been doing it. And apart from that, in extracurricular achievements, do mention your leadership positions. Like even if that leadership position, like if you have a lot of them, obviously you can chuck 1 or 2 of them. But if you don't have many of them, like let's say Hall Seki, it may not be a very good leadership position when you reach 4th year. Probably you may think about removing it from your CV in most of the other companies. But in Shlambaja you can probably put it, because if they see 2 or 3 good leadership positions in your CV, they may they may be inclined to shortlist you. And try and put things in your CV which are a bit different from others. For example, Kshitij, SF, obviously these people do make it to the shortlist, but they would obviously have a certain quota. Like let's say Kshitij says they're going to shortlist 4 or 5 people. So beyond that, they look for other kind of leadership positions. So that is again the case. And in the interview it's pretty peaceful. I think Shirish and even Lavish made it to the interview. I had a PPO, so I didn't sit for the interview during the final placements. But the interview is pretty laid back. They ask you questions like, we'll throw you in some desert in Iraq and in Siberia.
Would you like to stay there for 6 months?
Yeah.
This type of thing.
Yeah, and because money is the driving force, so most people also have to face questions like, is money a driving force for you? So obviously the answer should be yes, because that's how they compensate you for all those deserts and cold places. And that's pretty much about it. So I think the CV is a very crucial part when you're applying for this company. No preparation as such is required from next semester onwards. You can just, but when you're making your CV, just be a bit smart in the sense that don't try and boast about your academic achievements, because that's something which they don't care about. Even if and that can be negative in most of the cases. So even if you are very strong academically, at least try and show them that. I mean, don't